Hello, everyone, and welcome to our premiere broadcast of the Beer and Video Games Variety Show with Jack and Bear.
I'm Jack.
That would make me Bear.
Clearly.
Got my California Bear shirt on.
And he has just a bear face. So, for those of you who have been following us on Twitter, we are going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do in every episode is choose a beer that we think pairs well with our video game. We're going to do a tasting where we're going to tell you what the beer tastes like, the mouthfeel, all these things that are craft beer. And then we're going to segue that into the video game.
And quite frankly, we're probably going to do a lot of other things against our will that we can't perceive at our current blood alcohol level.
Right. Oh, another nice thing about the Beer and Video Games Variety Show is that we are trying to pull some musical guests. Right now, we've sent out emails to both Roger Waters and David Gilmour. We have yet to receive any feedback in terms of guest appearances, but we're working on it, and I guess just stay tuned for that.
Yeah. I mean, you set your goals high when you don't make them, and we're going to end at least Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah. Right, yeah, exactly. At least Avenged Sevenfold.
If we're aiming for Gilmore.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I promised on the Twitter feed, I'm going to start the day off by doing some shout-outs to some people who retweeted our post on Twitter. And for those who watch this retroactively on YouTube or on Twitch, just know that if we have a tweet that says retweet this for a shout-out, you will get a shout-out within the first couple minutes of every episode. So, we have some... let's see. We have a shout-out to Melody, who is part of Six Nerdy Chicks.
Awesome.
We have Bill Spooky Donkey Molina, who is going to be here later in the chat. He's a good buddy of ours.
So go ahead and tell him that we made good on our word.
We did. We have Six Nerdy Chicks, which is a new blog that gives a nerdy, feminine perspective on the video game and more of pop culture industry. They did an American Horror Story feature today. You should check it out at sixnerdychicks.com.
On the newest season, or?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which I watched today, and I regrettably could not get through it. You should do this next one right here.
Big fucking piggy. I'm sorry, big fucking piggy pig.
Yeah.
I wonder who that could be.
Yeah, big fucking piggy pig, thank you. I hope you're watching right now, because I made do on my word. I told you we'd give a shout out to big fucking piggy pig.
And it happened.
There it is. We have Eric Wong. Thanks, Eric Wong. We have Unseen64 / Wonder Tamaki. Unseen64 is, I think they're from the UK. They do a similar thing just without the beer because they're probably better people than we are.
Yeah. And they don't have the variety of beer that we could get our hands on. So.
Oh, dude. No, that's the fallacy. Well, maybe we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
No. All right, so then Guido. Thank you, Guido. Guido is a follower of Arshin Guy, who's probably my favorite YouTuber / Twitch guy. So a secondary shout out to Arshin Guy, but more importantly to Guido. Thanks for tuning in, man. Then we have Nick Harshman. We have John Dunn from Gamerzone, who is also a Twitch character, I suppose. And then last but not least, our good buddy Kevin Kenson, who is a part of everything in the tech world, I guess. Right?
Yeah. He's a tech wizard.
A tech wizard.
And, actually, he doesn't film videos of himself. He looks at himself in a mirror and broadcasts that, and it just seems to edit itself.
Yeah. Well, he makes very few mistakes, so he doesn't have to edit. So, to get to the beer and to get to the video game, I don't know if you guys have caught on. You probably have. But tonight we're going to be reviewing Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. And Sublimely Self-Righteous Ale, which if you haven't picked up from the title of this stream, you're not paying attention. You're welcome to stay. All are welcome.
Really? Opening night, you're going to talk a bunch of crap on our viewers?
Well, don't do it again.
Okay, yeah, don't do it again. All right. So, let's see. Oh, awesome. Guido says that he's looking forward to some craft beer talk, as everyone should be. And yeah, without further ado, Guido, here we go. All right, so we have Sublimely Self-Righteous. Sublimely Self-Righteous, as most of you should probably know, is from Stone, the premier brewery of Southern California, who basically defined the West Coast IPA as it is today.
Sure.
This started off as their anniversary ale. I think it says the 11th year that they put it out. Yeah, the 11th year that they put out an anniversary ale was Sublimely Self-Righteous. And it just caught on because it's damn good. So I will... There you go, there's yours.
Let's have me make an ass
handling
out of
like
myself.
A mongoloid. Yeah, so... when I'm tasting a beer for the first time, I like to use a snifter. I get a lot of shit for it, but I love it. And the thing is, this is
You like to drink 40s out of snifters.
Yeah, some King Cobra out of a snifter, I think that the 40 really lends itself to a 6-ounce pour like this. But
the gravity of Steel Reserve really comes out in the snifter.
It does. I think it does.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I have this snifter, which I think is actually a rum snifter, is because it's very, very tapered. I actually have a snifter down in San Diego with my girlfriend, and that one is, I would say it's like a little less tapered, but I think that once you agitate it, you really catch the aromatics within this cone shape, and you can really get your nose in it. Ooh, goddamn.
The reason I have this snifter is because Jack here was loving enough to bring it for me.
It's actually not a snifter, it's a tulip, you Philistine.
Jesus Christ. And this is really the heart of the problem, that he was just embarrassed to see me drinking it out of a mug.
Yeah, well, we have like a real lack of stemware here. We had, I think, a plastic goblet in the shape of a skull.
Well, it's aesthetic.
Yeah, if it's anything, it's that. So let's give it a good swirl. Give it a good swirl.
Swirl that baby around.
All right, so
yeah. Ooh,
here we go.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm always shocked by how citrusy this is. Because look at it. It's a black IPA. You can't really say anything else. It looks like a porter, and if you don't put your nose in it, you're not going to really get that.
Yeah, the hops come out off.
Cheers,
the top.
Guido.
The cheers. Yeah. Cheersing.
Well, no, yeah, for Guido. But yeah, the hop character is really there.
But it's not something like you're going to get in a typical IPA, because there is a lot of citrus going on. I don't know, baby floral undertones going on in there.
Baby floral undertones.
Just baby.
That's my favorite floral undertone. No, I'm actually getting like a little bit of grapefruit, like lemon zest, lemon rind.
Yeah,
and just a touch of pininess, which is good and also kind of surprising, because like Stone IPA is usually just like a hop bomb forest in your glass.
Absolutely. And you don't feel like you're about to get your ass kicked when you take a sip of this one.
Right. Well, we haven't tasted it yet, so maybe we will.
That's really what this is about. It's the deception, isn't it?
Yep.
What you're expecting.
It looks like Piggy Pig showed up. Piggy Pig. Cheers, Piggy. Let's see. So, let's get into it. Let's take our first sip, right? Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that does it. Yeah, I really like this beer. I think this is my favorite offering by Stone. Nothing else by Stone really comes to mind in terms of my go-to, like maybe Ruination.
Yeah.
I actually had Pale Ale. Yeah, their Pale Ale the other day. I'm not a huge Pale Ale fan, but that one was actually quite nice.
Their one-offs are fantastic, though. Their Epic series, Vertical.
Oh, and you enjoyed Crime Yeah, you enjoyed crime much more than I did.
I tried my hardest.
You did try.
Yeah.
I tried my hardest, and my hardest was not enough.
Yeah.
So what are you getting out of this?
You know, you build it up like it doesn't taste like a dark ale, but I feel like that's definitely coming out, especially in the aftertaste. Yeah, once it sticks around for a bit, it's almost nutty. Yeah,
you do really get the malt character, which is one of the things that I really do love about Black IPA. Black IPA does tend to have a maltier backbone, which is, I mean, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into in that regard. Yeah. So the hop is usually the wild card.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a little toasty. It's real toasty. Just a touch smoky in the very end. What do you think about the evolution of the flavors?
Well, I think for an ale called Sublimely Self-Righteous, you know, coming from somebody who's created Arrogant Bastard, it's actually it's not as foreboding as it sounds. I mean, there is a smoothness kind of all the way through.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty delicate for what it is.
Yeah. There's a lightness.
There is a definite lightness, especially
in
the front.
We're talking about a dark ale. But.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. How about the body? How about the mouthfeel?
I'm gonna stick with, you know, the mouthfeel is very thin, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, you can get that in IPAs. We're not in stout territory yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, mouthfeel is kind of the thing that I care least about when it comes to my IPA, just because it's all basically the same. It's pleasantly carbonated, not too over the top.
And that's a good compliment to any beer that's going to have a lot of hops in it.
Yeah.
Is you want that carbonation to give it that added crispness to kind of take the assault off your tongue.
Right, but if you go too far, then it does kind of take away from... It takes away maybe from the actual experience of the flavor, but adds something to the aromatics.
Sure.
But I'll take flavor over aromatics. Most days.
Most days. Till you get a whiff of like Chocovesa or something.
Yeah, because I think I do prefer the aromatics in Chocovesa, which is another stone ale that came out I think 2 months ago now.
Yeah, it was a collaboration beer.
Yeah, so that's right. So we're probably not going to see it again.
No, it was a one-time allocation, from what I've heard.
Yeah, well, you know, they've had a lot of beers that started off as just like a one-time thing, and then it became something more. I mean, like this beer, you know, this is a one-time anniversary ale, which most breweries like to change up every year, but, you know, it's stuck around.
Sure.
Maybe we'll see something like Chocovesa in the future, just not a collaboration.
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right, but yeah, you know, whatever. So let's run down. Oh, we forgot appearance. Obviously, appearance is it's pretty opaque.
Yeah, that's a dark beer.
Yeah, there's not a lot of variance in terms of like what you see around the edges.
I mean, if it weren't for the lightness of the head, you would assume it's a stout because it's just black.
Well, and look at the lacing too. I mean, like the lacing on that and the head retention is pretty good. Yours not so much.
I'm attacking it.
All right, so now we're gonna run down, just giving a numerical value 1 through 5, kind of like the old Beer Advocate system.
The old standby.
Yeah, because they don't do that anymore, and I think they've kind of simplified it to a point where it's not really fun.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, life's not fun unless you can quantify the best things.
Exactly. You know?
I mean, if you can't put a number on it, like, what is love? Is it a 10? I don't know.
I don't know either. And well, you know, and that's the thing too. You know, that's why scientists are such happy guys. So the appearance, I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a straight 4 out of 5. You know, there's the whole mystery of, you know, what is this just by looking at it.
Yeah,
that in itself is enough to warrant the 4 in my book. What do you think?
Yeah. I was off the bat going to give it lower than that, like something like a 3, because I do think it looks like a standard kind of ale. But when you bring in the head and what you brought up about the lacing,
look at the legs on this.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got some good legs. Yeah,
it's nice. It lasts a while. I could agree with the 4. The head saves it.
See you later, Piggy Pig. I know you're probably gone by now, but whatever. It seems appropriate. All right, so you're going to give it a 4 too?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
How about the aroma? What do you think?
The aroma.
Ooh. I'm getting more alcohol out of it than I was initially here.
Ooh, the snifter.
Yeah, the snifter. Your aromatics are going to be different in that.
I'm going to give that one...
Melody says the head always saves it.
Head always saves it. You gotta...
Inappropriate? Yes. Yeah. But...
You got to pay...
Adroit? Yes.
I mean, you do have to pay particular attention to the head, you know?
You do. That's where all the enjoyment comes from, right? Hey-yo. Drink.
So
I'm going to give the aromatics maybe a 4.25.
Uh-huh.
I would give it a 4.5 if it was less... Because now that it's sitting and warming up a little bit, I am getting more alcohol. I'm not getting as much toastiness as I might like, but
I think I'm going to go with the 3.75.
Oof,
on that
big
one.
variance.
Well, 0.5 is not that big of a deal.
Okay.
I think that as far as the aroma goes, nothing there is particularly new or exciting, but what it's doing, it is doing well. There's a nuance.
There is a nuance. And I'm all about that.
Yeah, I mean, the complexity is there, but you got to look for it. And I think that if we put this in a spectrum of beers, it would get lost side by side by the others.
Okay. So now, how about mouthfeel? How's that working for you?
It sits in your mouth like an IPA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's when you really know what you're drinking.
Yeah.
You know, after you've sat with it for 5 seconds.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4, just because I think that the carbonation really is what makes this beer balanced.
The crispiness on it.
Right, Guido. Right.
What's Guido saying?
Inappropriate, yes. Unacceptable, no.
There's an enthymeme there somewhere.
There is. How about overall? What are you giving this?
Overall, especially as like a standby beer, you know, something that's readily available that you always want to go to. I'm thinking like 7.75 to 8 range. Like, I mean, this is definitely one of the ones that you can just grab when you want a craft beer, but you don't want to go too crazy with it.
Okay, so translating that to the scale of 1 to 5, that's like a 3.7 or a 4.
Yeah,
I'm in there too. You know, I think that this is a really, really, really awesome example of what this style of beer can do. But at the end of the day, if I had to choose between picking this one up again, or if I had to get like Wookie Jack, or let's see, Mike Hess has, I think he has a black IPA called Deceptio, but I can't remember right now. Lena should be the person who fact checks me right now, because she would know. But yeah, I think that this overall is a very good indicator of what this style can do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bump it up to a 4 rather than
that's good.
3.75.
And there's something to be said about getting something that you don't expect, and it could either turn out well or it could turn out just fucking terrible, because there's this, God, I forget it. They said it was a red, right? And once you tasted it, it was completely not a red. It was full on like IPA.
Yeah.
And when you want a red, IPA is not the thing you want. I mean, they're two completely different animals. But when you're getting into a dark ale like this and being surprised by its, correlations to an IPA, I mean, it's
I mean, it
works out well.
It's an interesting decision to make.
Yeah,
because the black ale is already kind of this thing where there aren't a lot of rules in terms of what the style dictates. Oh, and Lena says that yes, it is Deceptio. Deceptio by Mike Hess. It's a great black IPA. For those of you who can find it, I think because they're so new, I think they're 4 years old. Their distribution is somewhat limited. Mm-hmm. So if you, I don't think I've actually seen Hess outside of San Diego County, but whatever. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so black ales. Actually, Lena and I went to. Where did we go? Oh, we went to Lost Abbey, and they had a black ale that their port side of Lost Abbey made, and it was completely different from this specific brand of black ale. So there's that. Now, I guess that this segues perfectly into why we chose Sublimely Self-Righteous. Okay, there is Hess at El Cerrito, which is in Corona, California. So I guess Hess does have reach beyond San Diego County at this point, which doesn't completely surprise me because it's 4 years old. But
so moving into the thematics of the situation, like why Sublimely Self-Righteous Ale and why Metal Gear Solid, other than Kojima clearly is sublimely self-righteous person.
Now there's a demon right here, if you could see it. We're not saying that that's Kojima.
Well,
but we're also not saying it's not Kojima.
Actually,
but it's probably not Kojima.
We can prove it's not Kojima because that demon's not dressed as a cowboy.
That's true. Yeah. If the demon was wearing a cowboy hat, we
would know.
Yeah. I think you would have to be a madman to say that is not Kojima.
Not Kojima. But honestly, for this ale, I mean, we've talked a lot about deception in terms of this ale and kind of defining what we can do with this genre of beer. Right. And something you said was that there were no rules, really, for this kind of beer.
Right.
And, I mean, when Kojima first started off, like before Metal Gear Solid happened, when it was just Metal Gear, I mean, there were no rules for stealth gameplay.
Right.
I mean, he's defining a genre, which nearly got him fired from his job. Mm-hmm. Do I need to go on with that?
No, I mean, Kojima being the sublimely self-righteous bastard he is.
Yeah.
If you look at the stone beer, you kind of have it in your mind that bastard follows.
Yeah.
But because there are no rules, that's when you can actually make something for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Kojima did with Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
If we look at the first two games in the franchise, or the games that came before,
or even its contemporaries in the stealth genre,
Splinter Cell, Siphon Filter,
Tenchu, Stealth Assassins.
Even Tenchu.
I mean, these are completely different games,
right?
know? They're not stealth in the way that Metal Gear Solid was stealth,
right? And then even going off of that, there is something that Metal Gear does within this context of the stealth game becoming a genre that none of the others did, and that's kind of that's sort of what this beer is doing. It's saying, okay, there's kind of like there's a framework for how this needs to function, but we're going to do this. Yeah, and that's what Kojima does with Metal Gear Solid. He says, okay, there are all these stealth games coming out. Now I'm going to do this. Yeah. And what he does is effectively kind of blur the lines between the genre of just having an action game that is
hard,
with espionage, but then it's also doing more. It's blurring the lines of science fiction, mysticism, speculative fiction.
Sure.
So much of what Metal Gear does is kind of predicts a lot of things, you know, like and all of those games do.
Yeah, and he's doing it in a time where he can get away with that kind of thing. I mean, he was lucky. Metal Gear 1, you know, they told him to make Contra, right? Just make a shooter. Just kill people. That's what you do in these games.
Right.
And he nearly gets fired. They say, you know, you're making a game where you're running from people. Like, that's not what you do in an 80s video game.
Right,
You kill people in an 80s video game. He said, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And when Metal Gear Solid came out, he basically had to do that again.
Yeah.
You know, he had to do it a second time around. And so what did he do? He brought in narrative elements. I mean, if anybody's ever played the original Metal Gear, that story is just awful. And he'll say it. Like, it's just bad. Yeah. But with the technology, and Kojima loves working with technology. I mean, there are aesthetic experiences going on the Switch to PS3, the Switch to PS2, the Switch to PS1, with all the things that he's playing with within that. And really using it to make a cinematic experience.
You know? Right, yeah. If Kojima is anything, aside from prophetic, he has the eye of a cinematographer.
Well, I mean credit to running at the beginning of each game. Like, you're meant to feel that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, Final Fantasy does that too. But I think to a different effect. You know, we kind of see the apex of this with Snake Eater, where it basically is a Bond film. You know, it has the Snake Eater song that is like a Bond song.
Snake Eater.
Exactly. That is where the variety show comes in, folks. He's doing some. I don't even know what to call that. I mean, it's. Let's call it musical interpretation.
Yeah. Well, let's wait till we get to your Liquid Snake.
Right.
But let's keep it at the beer for now. You know, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So. The appearance. This looks like a porter.
Yeah, it looks like a porter. Like, look at this, folks. If you don't know that this is Sublimely Self-Righteous, Black IPA, what are you really going to think that this is? You're going to think that this is, maybe from the consistency of the head, you'll know that it's at least carbonated. It's not nitrogenated. You'll maybe think, okay, this could be just a porter, because usually black ales have minimal lacing. Like, this has a full, or almost a full finger's width of head, even as it's just sitting here.
Yeah.
And that's usually more indicative of something that has a maltier base, something that is, you know, in the wheelhouse of a stout or a porter. But the second you get into it, you realize that, okay, what I thought was happening is totally not.
Yeah.
And immediately you have to change your whole mindset in terms of how you can take on this beer.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what happens in
Metal Gear. At every moment of the game, you realize that what you're thinking is not happening. Like, right. It's at every level, your allies, your enemies, yourself.
Yeah, I mean, look at your relationship with Campbell. I mean, throughout the whole entire thing, you keep on, you think you're incrementally getting closer to the truth, but the thing is like those increments, the distance that you're covering is kind of like an exponential curve. Yeah. So even though you're making a linear, like very algebraic movement through a knowledge base, the gaps are they move along an exponential curve. So like by the end, you're just like, what the fuck?
It's like you got McDonald Miller,
yes,
Roy Campbell, Meryl, Naomi Hunter, all on your codec at all times.
Yep.
And they're all lying to you.
Yep.
Always. The only people who don't lie to you are Otacon and Mei Ling. And I think that Kojima is trying to say something.
What is he trying to say? I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm going to play the race card.
Jesus.
Why are the Asians the only one telling the truth?
Otacon is not Asian. He's white. His name is Hal Emmerich.
Otacon?
Yeah.
I mean, his grandfather worked... I mean, he was in the fallout of Hiroshima, right? I mean...
Yeah, but I mean... But I mean, when you look at his avatar and when you look Hal Emmerich, Emmerich is a German last name, and Hal has some interesting ties into Kubrick, but we're not going to get into that.
Oh man, not Kubrick.
It's too early in the night for Kubrick.
Too early.
Anyways,
let's move on. Let's talk about then the legacy that is Stone versus the legacy that has become Team Kojima in relationship to these.
That's actually that's a necessity at this point because that is one of the things that drove us to choose Sublimely Self-Righteous over any other black IPA, because we kind of narrowed it down to we wanted to use a black IPA because deception is at the heart of it.
Yeah. And we also wanted to pick something that was well known. I mean, Metal Gear Solid is a staple at this point. We can't really pick an esoteric beer. It's
totally. So, as we said, I think at the very beginning, Stone is this thing, or this brewery, this entity that really does change the landscape of what it means to be a beer drinker. The craft scene doesn't start with Stone by any means. It starts probably a decade before Stone becomes an established thing, or maybe even more. But what Stone does that is unique is that in the primacy, or like the second wave of craft beer, it does something that other craft breweries are not, and that's making an IPA that will later become the West Coast IPA. One of my biggest complaints with the West Coast scene is that there are a lot of breweries who just want to make hop bombs, and it's more of a Southern Californian thing, because a new brewery comes up in San Diego every other week. I've been to a pretty large number of microbreweries in San Diego. And all they do is they just throw in, they throw in hop varietals that bring out pine. They kind of shy away from Citra hops, Simcoe hops, Centennials or Cascades. Even though these do other things aside from bring in the aromatics in terms of citrus or the rosiny notes.
Rosin.
There are a lot. This to me tasted a little bit rosiny, but I didn't want to say that actually because I know that the maltiness is permeating throughout the beer, and usually I say that something is rosiny if there is that bready sort of, at the same time, vegetable-y and oily kind of flavor that comes into a beer, but
you got a good beer if you can line your cello bow with it.
right.
well, talk about tone.
Actually, that's my biggest complaint of Stone. I'm thankful that Stone came and said, okay, we're going to make craft beer and that's going to be it, and we're going to make IPA, and it's kind of the impetus for all these things that grow out of this epicenter. You get people like AleSmith, you get people like now Hess, St. Archer. All these guys are coming out. They're making good IPAs that are balanced. But really, it's Stone that enables this to happen. And this is actually what Kojima does.
Yeah.
Kojima makes
Team Kojima.
Well, yeah, he does that, and then he makes the stealth genre as we know it possible. He is the wellspring. He is the guy.
Yeah.
Like we've said, there are games that here we go. Bilgamesh. Bill Spooky Donkey Molina has just entered.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bill. Thanks for tuning in, man. We are glad to have you. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
As you might say.
So, Stone being a household name, it's the wellspring of the California craft scene. Team Kojima, also a household name, can completely be construed as a microbrew in this context. I mean,
especially in Kojima and Stone follow the same trajectory.
Yeah,
there are some people who would say that Stone as it is right now does not actually represent the struggle that most craft breweries have because they've made it. The same is true for Kojima. Mm-hmm. He's doing a craft, like he is performing a craft, he's making a craft piece of artistry with all of his games. Stone's doing that too. Yeah. But they're just big.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about becoming a victim of your own success. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Team Kojima does not release a lot of games. The ones they do release are fantastic.
Right.
And varied. I mean, just what I think of off the top of my head is like Zone of the Enders, which is completely not Metal Gear even a little bit. He's working a Silent Hill, which... I mean,
I don't even know what it's going to be like. Actually, I do know what it's going to be like. It's going to be very cinematic. It's going to be like, it's going to blow your mind. Yeah. But because of Guillermo del Toro, it's going to be scary as all shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big weenie. I've never played the Silent Hill series.
I fucking love that series.
Yeah, I know. It's a deficiency I have.
I don't know. I'm really excited. I think that Kojima might be taking kind of a hackneyed approach to it within the genre. I think he's kind of pandering to a certain demographic of fans. But we don't need to talk about that. We'll do a Silent Hill episode. I'll get what I want. What else do we have here? I mean, we talked about the expectations and what you're getting.
Yeah. And just all these things really just... It's a matter of, we chose this beer specifically for this game, and we've laid that out. But we do think that all of these themes that we've talked about, the emergence of a genre, the little guy who becomes a big guy, the deception... the appearances being not what they are, actually, like some very real dramatic irony, both in the beer and both. I said both too many times, and in the video game, it really does make both the beer and the video game. It's kind of what makes them stand out amongst the masses. So, I think that is. A pretty good segue into the game, but first, any questions for us? Part of what makes Twitch so good is that it's a live stream. You can ask questions, and
and if we don't want to answer them, we could act
we don't see them.
I mean, God, that chat is just flushed. I can't see every comment.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's. There's a flood of questions, and there's also lag.
Yeah,
so
we're waiting a full 20 seconds before anything pops up.
Also, disclaimer: I have already done my tasting of Sublimely Self-Righteous. I'm retiring the snifter. Say goodbye to the snifter. He's gone.
Can't class it up all night.
Yeah, I mean, I try my best, but at the end of the day. There's nothing like a good bottle of beer, just on its lonesome, I guess. Yeah. So, cheers, guys. Bill is leaving, and he's leaving for reasons that confuse me because they are vague reasons. Well, I guess they're not even reasons. This is I'm leaving. It's a declarative statement. I'm an English teacher. I know this. Alright, so you want to switch it over to gameplay, my friend?
Let's get some gameplay, and let's talk about gaming.
Well, Bill says that our best isn't good enough, and that's why he's leaving. So that is a good reason.
That is.
I mean, I would like that to be explicated, but...
We'll strive.
But, I guess I can see where he's coming from. Oh, okay, no, he's eating Chinese food, which I don't think eating Chinese food and watching us play Metal Gear Solid now are mutually exclusive activities.
That's, you know what that is? A false dilemma.
That's a false dilemma. Exactly, that's exactly what it is.
That starting music, which you can't experience.
I can't hear,
right now.
But I hear it in my head.
Yeah. there yet.
We're not there yet. I've only had one beer.
We're gonna get there. You see that?
You said it was going on.
Well, when what's it called? Konami comes on and it's like do.
Okay, I do. I'm very behind. Here we go. Bill is commenting on the PS1 boot up, which is that's like the epitome.
All right, so he heard it. So we're running good sound.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, is the sound good for you guys? Do you need us to mix or?
Oh, let's switch over. I forgot to switch over to the green screen.
Okay. So we have Guido who is asking us, how do we compare Stone's Dark Ales to Rogue's Dark Ales? Now let me ask Guido, are you from Oregon? I know this will probably take a while because of the lag, but it's a question.
Why don't you go ahead and explain the relevance of that question while we wait to hear the answer?
Rogue is a brewery that is it is rooted in Oregon.
Right.
Actually, my girlfriend's he says yes.
Okay.
All right, my girlfriend's mom and stepdad are moving up to Oregon, and they actually, I think they got a beer that is like a bacon beer or something like that. It's like bacon and donut or something. I don't know. I didn't have it.
Oh yeah. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Bill is very impressed with our green screen.
Yeah.
I feel validation.
The investment paid off.
Yeah. So I have not had too many Rogue beers. Actually, my girlfriend and I, we went to Milan this summer.
Milan.
Yeah, and we or Milano as they say over there. But we went to this little pub called Sloane Square, and we had a bunch of like Founders beers, and we had which is from Michigan, so it doesn't really factor into this conversation. But we had some Rogue, and then I've had some Rogue here and there. Dead Guy, their hazelnut porter or their hazelnut stout. Correct me if I'm wrong about the hazelnut stout or porter, but I think that's Rogue, Guido.
So I think he was asking you a question.
Well, yeah. So that said, I haven't had black ales by Rogue. I'm actually not a huge fan of black ales, just because there is kind of like there's not an established framework for what it means to be a black ale. I do like the kind of Berliner style of black ale, but that's sort of hard to come by. Like I said, Lost Abbey has one, or port rather. Let's see, what did he say? Okay. Yes, Milan, darling. So I can't talk about that. What I can say though is that Rogue is a brewery that when I go up to Oregon within the next year, I am most anxious to try, because the big brewery that I have some exposure to right now is Cascade. I had their what is it? The apricot noyau or something like that. Noyaux. It's a French word. My French is horrible. So I've had that. The only problem is that I had that after I came back from Belgium with my girlfriend, and we went to Cantillon. So my expectations for a spontaneously fermented beer are pretty high. I mean, I had Fofoon, and then I had Cascade.
My standby.
I know that doesn't really answer your question, Guido, but
my standby with Rogue is Dead Guy Ale. That's Dead Guy. That's a fucking solid one. Have you had that one?
Yeah, I mentioned that. Actually, I had some. Anthony had some at the party.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So I mean, from what I've had of Rogue, it's decent. But if I were to spend some money on a bottle of beer from Oregon, I would probably go towards Cascade, something like that.
All right, doggies. So feel free to keep the
questions. I haven't had much exposure to Rogue. Part of I decided to easy so we don't look like fools.
Well, here's the thing: is like we keep the questions coming, but I think that we all need to take in this cinematic intro.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna pause and enjoy the cinematic experience that is the beginning of Metal Gear Solid,
and we can have the opera on it.
Yeah.
David Hayter. Before that name meant anything.
Bill poses a wonderful question, and we'll get to it.
Were you the one who told me that?
Hey, shut up.
David Hayter?
Yeah. No, it was actually Bill who told me this. So.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to the big brain on Bill in a second.
Stay alert, dog. First words of the game.
Oh man, Bill is very, very unsatisfied that we didn't go normal. Sorry, Bill. All right, so going back to Rogue. Yeah, okay, so Bill says the only actor who kept his true name was David Hayter. The rest used pseudonyms because they were embarrassed to be in a video game. Yeah. That is interesting, and it sets up this level of deception. Yeah. Like it's meta deception that is unintentional, but it's awesome. Like the elevator in the back.
It's really fantastic how Kojima turned David Hayter into a character. If you see in Metal Gear 4 in the intro, there's a lot of live action commercials to make it look like a real world. But there's also an interview with David Hayter where he has the solid eye and he's wearing it, and he just builds him to be such a fucking weirdo.
Yeah,
like this lady's in the middle of interviewing him, and he's just like, I'm watching a baseball game right now, actually on my eye. You know, who would have thought Kojima liked baseball?
Oh, yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So going back to what Guido said is that yes, I fully admit, I'm the first to admit, I can only be the first to admit that I don't have a lot of exposure to Rogue. There's actually a bar/deli that Bill and I used to go to a lot called Hollingshead, and Hollingshead occasionally had some Rogue beers, but I never got around to trying them because they had 20-something. God damn. Well, good job. Already. It's easy mode.
Hey, man. We can talk about the controls.
So yeah, we used to go to this bar called Hollingshead.
Get up.
And they would have some Rogues, but they also had 21 other taps. And they would usually carry something like St. Bernardus Christmas or Nelson by Alpine. They'd have like some Dogfish Head seasonal beers, like they had a Worldwide Stout, Old School Barley Wine. Some of these, for some people, they had White Whale beers, and I wasn't gonna say no, even though. Oh yeah, Pliny the Older was another one that they it's a perennial at Hollingshead, so I couldn't say no to those. But that said, again, when I do go to Oregon, Rogue is definitely on the map. There will be flights aplenty, and I'll get back to you, Guido.
There's no rolling in this game.
Bill says
says
that you suck.
We all knew it was coming.
He doesn't come out and say it, but again, since you brought up enthymemes, that is the enthymeme.
Yeah. Now, the cool part is if I could jump into the goddamn water, you could see Snake run around underwater, which is...
Why can't you jump off?
I don't know how.
Maybe it's the credits are still rolling? I don't know. This must be extremely boring for our 5 viewers. They must hate you right now.
I can't help waiting for the elevator, man. I can't make that go any faster.
True. Now, getting back to where we are, since this is the first time that I've actually thought about this.
Yeah.
Can you put yourself into the mind of the child who got this game and was playing this?
I just had no idea. I mean, these puddles are still the bane of my existence.
Yeah, dude. Every time this scene plays, I just get hardcore nostalgic, and that is something that does not happen very often or easily for me.
And nor should it.
Yeah. I try to disconnect myself from nostalgia, if I can. But
that doesn't count as an alert. You didn't actually see me.
I think your radar would say differently.
I mean,
Did you get that ration?
Shots definitively were not fired.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so one of the things I recently speed ran this game with Bill, and we both kept on thinking, all right, how do we roll? How do we do these things that come later in the series? And that actually was something that I noticed coming back to this game, was that it's really I don't want to say tough to play. Even though for me it was a little tough, I felt like a little baby.
Yeah,
but I mean, like
let's say like what you were saying just a few minutes ago with being put into the shoes of when you first played this game. There's a huge level of ineptitude. Like, I mean, you want to get into a game, you want to start blasting people.
Yeah,
being quiet is not something that you're taught to do in a game. Repercussions for walking through a puddle. I mean, you could very well be wondering, why is this guy hearing me?
Yeah.
You don't expect those correlations between real life and the game at this point. I had no idea. I mean, I immediately just, fucking loved it. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's something different, as opposed to the Final Fantasy series, which I had no idea about, and that had to grow on me a lot. But this one is just universally awesome.
Yeah. I'd like to think that anyways.
Yeah. I mean,
there are some people who hate this game, and Kojima and all that, which I don't really understand, but whatever.
I'm in front of the disposal
facility. Well, then let's...
Yeah, and what Bill's saying right now, this game was such a dark horse, a black sheep. It's this thing that we have not seen up until this point.
Yeah.
And that shit stays with you.
It does. It does. And I think this is a good transition to talk about groundbreaking versus broken ground. Being that this is a term we use for, when a game is groundbreaking, it just breaks all the conventions. It's doing something completely different. Whereas broken ground is like when you go back to that game and experience it, and it's just not as good because further installments have done it better. Other games have used the format to greater, effectiveness.
Colonel.
I mean, where do we feel this game sits? Like groundbreaking, or is it broken ground at this point?
This point right now, or when it comes out?
Obviously, it's groundbreaking in its time. We're talking about now. Does it still have that potency, or is it broken ground? Do you not want to go back and play this?
No, I mean, for me personally, this story is probably my favorite out of all of them. But again, the mechanics are kind of clunky.
Yeah.
And I hate shooting the SOCOM.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's awful. But is that enough to say that I don't want to play it again?
Call it broken ground.
I mean, I don't think it's there. I think it's still this groundbreaking thing that you can really enjoy.
I never noticed,
but at the same time, it sucks.
I never noticed how pervy Campbell sounds when he introduces Mei Ling. Because Snake says, "Who's that?" and he's like, "Oh, sorry. I guess I've been holding this back from you."
Yeah, he has.
And I think we both talked about last time. We forgot.
What's wrong?
How Mei Ling sounds a little racy, a little racist.
No, she's extraordinarily racist. It's undeniable. So,
the voice acting is not racist. Mei Ling,
right, she is a racist.
She is a racist.
So you guys in the chat, Bill brings up an interesting question. Do you think that this has aged well?
Looks like we both
that this is kind of a game that we have to disconnect ourselves from for, mechanics, graphics. Is it anachronistic? I mean, personally, I think that this game has aged well.
I think it's aged fantastically.
Okay, so I think that we established that I was in 4th grade when this came out.
Yeah.
4th or 5th grade, or 6th grade, somewhere in there. I was under 12. And at that time, my only other frame of reference in terms of like what is a good game in terms of graphics for me was, oddly enough, Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy VII. And I think that the graphics in this are more or less tantamount to not 8, but actually 9 in terms of like what it's doing, the clarity, the vision, the aesthetics.
Yeah.
I think that this game has aged well graphically because it is stylized,
Heavily stylized.
it's heavily stylized for the medium.
Yeah, and we could talk about games like Shadow of the Colossus, which, it was held back by PS2 technology, but people keep going back to it again and again because the aesthetic is fleshed out.
I think more so than 2 or even 3.
Yeah. And something we're gonna find is that Metal Gear 2 looks so much better than Metal Gear 3.
How did you do that?
And that is for the sole reason that forests are hard to render.
Yeah.
Whereas you're talking big shell, you're talking tankers in part 2, flat surfaces, reflective, clean.
Very easy to render geometric.
Yeah, I mean,
shapes.
if you want to talk about character models and face, of course, Snake Eater is better.
Yeah.
But as a game taken in with the environments, I mean, part 2 looks slick.
But there's too much risk of being spotted by the enemy.
I mean, I think this game has aged well, from a gameplay standpoint.
Bill calls it charming. Like the movement of their heads in cutscenes.
Yeah.
I don't know if charming is my go-to adjective, but there is a certain charm to this game that you can't deny, and so I'm not going to say that I disagree with Bill, but charming is not my go-to adjective.
Well, as far as the gameplay aging in this, I think this ages so well because this is tactical espionage action.
Yeah.
And the tactical is honestly playing a role here.
Yeah.
In that when you're running around boxes choking people out, it's more about thinking, it's more about finding those gaps, it's more about provoking your enemies. This isn't a Twitch game. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's not about...
The interesting thing, though, is that the Twitch game, which I know that Phil loves, like games like Contra, is that there is a degree of memorization in Twitch games, actually. I mean, like... But somehow it is different in this because I think that, obviously, because you're moving in 3 dimensions, there are other things to consider. You can't just think about the guard who's moving on an XY axis. You have to think of the camera that's looking down from the Z axis. There's like all of these things that are happening at once. That I mean, themes aside, this is a very cerebral game in contrast to what we've been exposed to, or what we had been exposed to at this point.
What was that noise?
You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Ah, shit. It didn't work. Guys, it didn't work.
Did you say whose footprints are these?
Of course you did.
Love that line. I love the way that that's voiced. Yep.
Hey, I got away with it.
Nearly 20 years later, and I still sometimes say to people, whose footprints are these? It's nostalgic, yes, Bill. But nostalgic in terms of how I define nostalgia or how I think about nostalgia isn't necessarily bad thing because it
dissuades from objectivity.
Well, right, it's the Kundera, everything is illuminated by the aura of nostalgia. Everything is made better by nostalgia. And I'm saying that there is a nostalgic quality to this game, but it's warranted. It's not. What are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
I'm gonna run across the helipad right now.
All right. I guess I'm just.
You want to get this?
Oh, there you go.
Chaps, man.
I guess I'm just used to our speed run. We just went into the duct.
Dog.
Bill! Billy's killing me.
Dude, didn't you get the SOCOM?
Did we get the SOCOM, Bill? I think maybe not.
Oh, dude. The SOCOM.
Well, we basically... Well, I can't say we tried to do a no-kill run.
Uh-huh.
Just because we got caught so many times, we had to kill people. But yeah, I don't think that we really worried about the SOCOM for some reason. Remember in the demo, this was the Nikita launcher?
Yeah. Because they
and then when you play this game...
Because they wanted you to know
that
you would get a missile launcher in this game.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing.
Now,
like when you go to play this game and it's a SOCOM, you're like...
If that's not
I came in with the SOCOM.
If that's not a fucking selling point, there is a missile launcher in this game.
Yeah. That's a selling point for me. So Bill's saying that he grilled me for just skipping the SOCOM and that we killed fucking everyone is what he... Well...
Oh, shit.
What? Just don't... Be cool.
Be cool. Just be cool.
Just be cool, bro. There you go.
I can't be cool!
What are you doing? No, go in the vent! Go in the vent!
What? Okay, I'm going in the vent.
Jesus. They're gonna throw a grenade in there, bro.
Nah, Doc, I'm gone.
Like, there's a threshold where it's like, okay, he's a foot away from me. I can see him. He's 2 feet away from me. Where'd he go?
Where'd he go? Should I radio my guys inside? They'll handle it. I believe in those guys. Hey, they got promoted into the building for a reason.
That's right.
And they're going to handle this shit.
Because you do know that on some subconscious level, you know that if you're a guard on the outside rather than the inside, that the boss hates you.
Yeah. Ooh. It's McDonald Miller.
What are you doing here?
Guys.
Now here's the wonderful thing.
So I moved out here for some peace and quiet.
How does Snake not realize that this is an obviously fabricated accent?
I know, right? McDonald Miller, when did you start looking exactly like me?
When did you adopt my bone structure?
Oh, Christ. There's no one else I'd rather have in a foxhole than you, buddy.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. If I were in a foxhole, I would want a duplicate of myself.
But it's a fallacy because you don't find atheists in foxholes.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Just digital. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers to not being in a foxhole. So, let's move on with our lit.
Yeah. Okay.
Lit crit.
Yeah. So here's I guess we have to make a disclaimer before we go to this portion of the broadcast.
Jesus.
We are going to be reviewing Metal Gear Solid, analyzing its themes, looking at its characters, doing X, Y, and Z through a new critical approach. And that means that we will not be looking at Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear 3, any of the things that happen in Zanzibar Land, no Peace Walker, nothing like that. We're just looking at what happens in this game, what is the significance, and how do we understand these characters within the context of this game and this game alone.
Yeah. And that's going to be hard for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, for anyone, it's hard. It's a hard practice. But I think that is the most useful approach to a game like this.
Also, keep your eye on that woman in the cell.
Then again, if you're on the outside, you're more likely to survive. Yeah, I guess if Solid Snake is going into Shadow Moses, if you're on the outside, you do have more job security and life security. but for most plebes who try to enter Shadow Moses,
There's an intruder besides me.
There's an intruder
I want
besides
to
me.
increase the security detail on the chief.
and then Bill brings up the fact that there are only 35 guards in the game.
It's a well-guarded base for a terrorist operation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
How many of those guards are genome soldiers?
Well, and that's the thing too. If we're looking at American terrorist groups, they're usually pretty small compared to networks of people we call terrorists, like in the Middle East and all that shit. Al Qaeda, Boko Haram, they're obviously larger because they can't propagate themselves within their area. So yeah, I mean, like Shadow Moses, 35 guys, a terrorist group in the U.S. That's pretty substantial.
And we have to keep in mind this is information warfare that we're dealing with. This is
that too.
This isn't just about the nukes. It was never just about the nukes, man.
It was never just about the nukes. All right, so now that we're approaching the time when we can talk about analysis of the game,
Press the action.
I think that we need to talk about
Press the action button to drop.
the genre.
He keeps telling me to press the action button to drop.
Press the action button.
Well, I
What are
want
you doing?
this.
It's a ration. You have 2, don't you?
Well, you know what? I don't have full health because I got shot a little bit.
That's true. Don't scope.
Okay, they took out the one click. Oh, there it is. It's L1. And my ration. Good.
Let's see.
Bill, what's the action button?
Well, Bill says that 35 people is a lot of people to trust. Now that's interesting that he brings that up because trust is actually not a factor in these guys because they're genome soldiers.
All of them?
Aren't all the guys in the white coats genomes?
No, just the bosses.
Well, fuck me,
Just
right?
the bosses are
Should be a
genome
cargo
soldiers.
elevator that you can take down somewhere around there.
We're gonna edit that out when we put that on
Yeah.
YouTube, right?
Yeah.
No, so let's talk about the genre of this game. We already kind of scratched the surface, but in terms of genre, we have to look past the espionage aspect of this. We have to look past the medium of this. I think we need to talk about what this game does in terms of blurring the lines, like we said, of science fiction, which is one camp, speculative fiction, and mysticism, right?
But before we get into some highbrow shit, I would like to say, so you know this part here where you walk on the grating and it makes a loud noise, and Miller tells you like try walking heel toe, you won't make a noise. Mm-hmm. I walked around my house for solid like 3 years heel toe, like trying not to make noise. That's the effect. I mean, do I want to crawl on my belly to not make noise? It's bullshit.
No, you don't.
Anyway,
You're not gonna do that.
Intersections between speculative fiction, science fiction.
Right. So it's kind of hard to talk about what this game does in terms of addressing questions of science fiction and speculative fiction, because there are some certain things about Metal Gear that we know to be true, but certain things that we know to be false. So for instance, like the gene splicing and everything that comes to fruition with that, the way that I guess the way that cloning works in this is not quite true in the purest sense of cloning. You know, there are a lot of things that are kind of, I don't know, they're eerily close to the truth, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of where the speculative fiction comes into play, because, I mean, if we're looking at pure biology and pure, like, biochem, engineering, and all that stuff, like, I'm not convinced that there is something in this that can't happen per se.
Yeah.
It just can't happen within the confines of, like, what we understand science to be right now in this moment in time. Oh, there you go. That's how you choke out a bitch. Let's see.
I mean, I think the difference between science fiction here and speculative fiction here is speculative fiction is kind of trying to answer a question. I mean, science fiction at its root is asking a question, and I don't think Kojima is trying to give answers in this.
No,
And
definitely not.
he gives us one at the end, but it's certainly not definitive by any means. You know, the whole live on snake
Right.
is it's one way to look at something. I don't think he's pushing that on us like genes are pointless.
Right.
Genes are completely pointless. It's more of a philosophy of like, well, maybe that's just the way we have to live in the post-genetic world.
Right.
Oh, what's
shit.
this guy?
What's he doing?
What? This guy?
What was that
fucking
noise?
nut. This guy. Who trained this guy?
Why isn't he? Oh, there you
I
go. That'll do
Fuck!
it. Where did all these people come from?
I don't know. 35 guards my ass.
Yeah, Bill, you're wrong. Although you're not doing a pure run through proper, I guess.
What do you mean?
Like you're not.
Do I have to collect all this shit again?
I think you might have to.
Okay, well, we're gonna find out.
Get the thermal gogs.
You know, there's more of an art to choking someone out in this first installment than the later installments, where you can kind of get away with some bullshit. But you know, I thank the game for that. I think,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Also, easy mode, bro. Easy mode.
Hey, buddy, you could be in the hot seat here.
Hey, you guys who have a Twitter account, I want you guys to do hashtag easy mode and talk a bunch of crap on him because he's failing in easy mode. And you know why you're failing? You're taking the tactics ogre approach.
Oh,
where you say,
Christ.
I bum rush these guys,
bum rush him.
and therefore they're going to die.
No. Boy, what you know about Tactics Ogre?
Hey, Guido, thanks for coming out, man. I hope
Yeah.
that you liked from what you saw of this. We hope to see you back next week, Thursday night, 8 o'clock. Cheers.
It's an establishment.
Yeah.
Cheers. We could get you behind the controller, buddy, if you're not liking what's happening here.
Huh. Okay, Bill. Running up and choking every guard is taking the tact out of tactical. If that's true, we're left with ickle. What does that mean?
Well, etymologically and phenotypically.
Hey, I agree with you, though, Bill. You're actually not conforming to the genre, which I think Kojima would be okay with
Yeah.
on some level. But aliens.
Okay, I mean, I try to choke everyone out actually because I think it's harder to do. I think it's easier to get around people. Like you could crawl under the tank
You can.
pretty fucking easily. I could conform the Billonomics here, you know, and the Bill theory of gaming. You know, let's be tactful then.
Fickle pickle.
Again, we need to keep on our conversation. I think
Yeah.
we're gonna
okay.
keep getting sidetracked.
Yeah, so that I guess that's kind of the unfortunate side of streaming a game while trying to have a cogent discussion.
Yeah.
And then beer is involved on top of that. So, you know, let's go into the premise of this game. This whole game is predicated on several levels of lies.
Speaking of levels,
There you go.
which one am I going to?
I think you're actually... Yeah, B1.
Okay.
B2 is where you fight Ocelot.
Mm.
Now, so this game is all about lies. It's all about deception. Everything that we think that we know turns out to be false.
Look at the radar. It's picking up the
And
damage.
that's kind of...
Green
It's
dot.
kind of...
Hurry and rescue
Well,
it.
let's not talk about the other ones. We're
Yeah,
new
yeah,
critics.
Sure.
So there's a lot to be said about the ways in which Snake is deceived. He's deceived on all fronts.
And by extension, you're deceived. And
Right.
that may seem obvious, but that's not something that happens in every game. When we
Right.
talk about relative awareness, I mean, you are in the shoes of Snake. Kojima has said, even working with the aesthetic, obscuring Snake's eyes is a way for you to project yourself onto Snake.
Right.
And we are never one up on Snake. We are never one up on information. You know, we get it as he gets it.
Oh, nice. Guido, who is probably offline right now, said, He tweeted us on Twitter, and that he's looking forward to next week.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah. So, thanks, Guido. You're the man.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're never one up on Snake. I mean, some games give you information to create suspense because you know you're walking into something bad. Metal Gear is not one of those games.
And actually, one of the most interesting things about Snake being deceived is that it's a literary tool that actually it kind of erases the boundary of player and player character, and that's actually that happens a lot throughout this game.
And in a book, like, narratology is great. You know, you can have a great narrator. When it comes to gaming, you want, I think, as much to pull that narrator out.
Yeah.
You want to be close to who you're playing as, you know.
Yeah, and I mean,
and it's been done wrong. Like Halo, Bungie has said we never want to take off Master Chief's mask because we want you to relate to him. You know, you want to be Master Chief. Well, the problem with that is Master Chief sucks. Like,
he's not.
I mean, he's not distinct. You know, he's not a distinct character.
Yeah, there's one thing that I feel like we should say about Snake is that if you think of literature, if you think of other games, in a lot of games and books, you are aware of the deception.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like this innocent bystander. Like, you know, this happens a lot in Hitchcock movies.
Yeah.
Where intentionally you're made to be this person who is a bystander to the deception because that makes tension.
Rear window.
Right, exactly.
You know, the guy is sitting in his chair watching a murder happen and he can do nothing. I mean, it emulates you watching it in the theater. You are an observer.
But I guess more of what I'm trying to say is like with Psycho, you know?
Mantis.
Psycho by Hitchcock. Sure. From the onset, you know that Anthony Perkins or Norman Bates, he is the murderer. And there are people who come and they question him, and you think... Well, you think two things. You think, A, oh my God, you're so close. You're so close to finding out that he's the murderer. You're the spectator. But on the other side, you say, oh, like don't do it. Like don't find him out because you kind of empathize. But the strange thing with Metal Gear is that I guess the empathy that is created through discovering deception when Snake discovers deception is it's not unheard of.
No.
But it is very effective and it's a good choice. Yeah. Because as cinematic as this is, you could take the move to say, let's deceive Snake and have the player be like, no, don't do this, and I'm culpable for doing this. Yeah. That happens in a lot of games. But in this game, it doesn't. You're deceived. Snake is deceived. Everyone is deceived.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, this is an incredible moment of deception that we're watching right now. It's true. Being that this isn't the DARPA chief that we're talking to right now, which is a mindfuck.
Yeah, and it's crazy like how long it takes.
Yeah.
For you to realize that this actually was not the DARPA chief.
And you don't realize it, you're told.
Yeah, well, and there's something about the way that it's told to you that it's not effective within the first play. And that kind of like begs the player to say, okay, let's go back and see, what is the implication here.
And in regards to Decoy Octopus, now that we're talking about it, it's really interesting how believable this is. And I think it really comments on the role of the artist, the actor, the portrayer in portraying truth. You know what I mean? I mean, Decoy Octopus, what's his genome power? He's a method actor. That's what he does. Right. I mean, he commits to his roles. He puts the DARPA chief's blood in his own body. He switches it out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost Daniel Day-Lewis.
Almost.
Can't be.
But
Metal Gear.
But that deception, that artistry, is integral to portraying truth.
We've had a couple of
Yeah.
rounds in the past.
It's beautiful.
You were here at the
It's a beautiful moment.
Why
Just
else
got a
would I
tear in
come
my
to
eye.
a God-forsaken place like this?
I had heard the
Um,
Metal Gear project was
I mean, but
scrapped.
deception is on every level. You want to talk about deception in regards to
Taking ourselves.
perfection.
We were going to use
Perfection,
this
genetic
exercise
perfection as it
while
is portrayed in this game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of genetic perfection, I think that we have to talk about,
If
you know,
it hadn't
there
been
there are
for
several
revolution,
twists in this game,
Revolution.
but the biggest one comes at the end and only for those who wait.
Rex has
Yeah.
fallen into the hands of terror.
It's kind of like that Final Fantasy thing where, if you
Metal
if you
Gear
wait
Rex.
after the credits, you get something special, and the same thing happens in Metal Gear.
Probably already.
And it's the whole thing of Solidus and who Solidus is.
Experienced in hand.
But before we talk about Solidus, we have to talk about the binary that is
Yes.
Liquid and Solid Snake.
Right.
So I guess we need to start talking about. We need to talk about the characters, and
But I thought that all nuclear war
maybe how they relate to deception, which is at the core of this. But then we also have to talk about identity.
Oh,
So first,
you mean pal?
Well, let's talk about everyone but Solid first, because
I mean he's the easy one.
he's created by his relationship to other characters. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's start with Liquid. I mean, Liquid, he's the classic villain. He feels like he was robbed of something from birth. He's having an identity crisis. This dude's Kuja. Like, I mean,
He is totally. It's actually the same exact problem.
as Kuja.
Yeah. Kuja thinks that he
for
is the
Final Fantasy IX for the uninitiated.
Yeah. Well, actually, the interesting thing is that Kuja thinks that he's the harbinger of death,
Psychic powers.
whereas Liquid thinks that he is the weaker of two brothers. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, out of those personas,
weaker
comes,
not by chance but by design,
if they find
or
which is a big deal.
well, and that's Kuja
Yeah.
too. He thinks by design
They'll
I
be
am
able to
superior.
launch a nuke anytime.
And so I mean like that's incredibly interesting. I didn't really think about those two characters together.
Yeah.
But I
They were
mean
designed by arms.
the relationship between Solid Snake and Liquid
Even without
Snake
the passwords, you can just
is
insert the
basically
card and engage the safety.
they at their core
if I do that,
what their identity is that they think that they are a binary.
That card key.
And then the interesting thing that we learn at the end
Baker should have
is that the binary is switched,
You need 3 cards.
but also they're not necessarily a binary. They're the same thing.
They are both insignificant,
Right? Yeah. I
in
mean,
the face of
it's crazy.
Solidus. You know,
do you know where they might be keeping Baker?
somewhere in the second floor basement.
Second floor basement.
Bill just said that we need to check out the ending credits of Metal Gear 4 because it's trippy.
Any other clues?
they are trippy.
And I know I'm deficient. I don't have a
Yeah.
I don't have a PS3 or PS4.
Bill, are you talking about post credits in the graveyard?
The walls are a different color.
And we'll get that in a second.
Well,
But,
if that's what he's talking about, I think I have seen
my idea.
that.
It'll
But-
open any
I mean,
one security.
and it's interesting that Solid and Liquid are consistently seen as deficient to Big Boss, whereas Snake kills Big Boss barehanded in Zanzibar Land.
We're not talking about Zanzibar Land.
That shit's
New
in this
critical,
game,
bro.
dog. That shit, and they
Alright.
talk about it.
Well,
talk
and then also, echoing that scene is that Snake, who turns out to be the recessive, weaker of the two,
Yeah,
kills Liquid in a fist fight.
yeah. I mean,
You haven't heard any.
don't bet against Solid Snake in a fist fight. That's if we're learning.
Well, yeah, the same.
Yeah.
Well,
You haven't heard.
Is that? What Bill's
yeah,
saying,
I'll
Bill?
leave it there. Bill says that. Yeah, he's talking about that.
Beautiful fucking scene.
That's
take
their
care of
problem.
Fantastic
Nothing to do
scene.
with my orders.
Love it.
But what about the Pentagon?
Bill, are you drinking right now?
What is it?
Ooh.
That fade to black and white.
Yeah.
Hey, what happened?
Little aesthetic. I mean, we're talking about cinematics here. We got the shaky screen, the monochrome.
Well, it's like it's kind of like Saving Private Ryan.
And you know, it's funny that the screen vibrates because this is a scene that's going to resonate throughout. You know, I mean, people are just going to start having heart attacks on Snake.
Yeah. I mean, like, this whole fox die thing is just...
Naomi, the chief. What happened?
I don't
And
know. It looked like a heart attack.
I mean, we talk about moments of trauma and what's happening neurologically. You know, like the ARC proteins, right, are being reinforced, right?
No, there is no racist bill or racism bill. God damn it! And then he is drinking Thai iced tea.
Okay,
is that code for Samuel Smith?
I told you. The Secretary of Defense is in operational control. I'm just here as your support.
You know, in moments of trauma, the ARC proteins are reinforced. You start producing more of them, which creates a firmer grasp of memory, which is why, you know, people with PTSD have, you know, are trapped in the present, essentially, you know? And obviously, you know, you're not going to start firing proteins into the player's brain, but you need something subconscious to signal, remember this moment.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a recurrence, what just happened in this scene. Aesthetically, not just thematically.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, Melody. And if you go back and you watch the beginning of this, you will see your shout out, and you will see the shout out to 6 Nerdy Chicks if you weren't here in the beginning. And
thanks
for tuning in.
And
we'll see you next time.
What a coincidence that we're about to meet our first female character within the game.
Yeah, you signed off at the wrong moment, Melody. Here's a nerdy chick for you.
And Meryl is a nerdy chick. I mean, given she'll blow your head off, but she's a fangirl.
Don't move. So you killed the chief.
Oh God,
bastard.
It's so hard not to talk about future installments in regards to this scene.
No.
Don't do it.
You're not.
Damn, right here, Liquid. No, you're not. That's
Good, Melody.
fucking just foreshadowing.
Don't do it.
First time you ever pointed a gun at a person. Your
We
hands are
have to keep our heads in the game.
Can
Don't
you
do
shoot
what?
me, rookie?
Don't bring in later
I'm no
Metal Gears, bro.
Liar.
It's rough, man. With the reflections, I mean, Kojima knows his stuff.
They're rookies on
Yeah,
this fight.
I mean, when we talk about the later Metal Gears, I think it would be advantageous for us
To look
comment
back.
on those. Yeah,
You know,
You're not one of them.
and the commentary will come in waves.
Open
just
that
like the
door.
Wanting.
You've got a card, don't you?
Why?
For all you Decemberist fans
What the
out
hell
there.
is here?
We actually
Now, okay,
we contacted Colin Malloy.
I'll be Colin Malloy. Now here's the thing that I hated.
This part.
Yes, I hated this part because up until this point, I didn't have to really fire my SOCOM,
Yeah.
and I forgot how clunky the SOCOM is.
What are you waiting for? Shoot!
Don't talk to me like a rookie.
Stop acting like a
Telling
rookie.
you, shoot!
Yeah! Chick has a FAMAS. Are you kidding me? Or a FAMAS.
I always call it FAMAs,
Really?
like how the British people say farmers. I'm a FAMAs. I think that's how Liquid Snake would say it.
Snake, is that a FAMAS?
Is that a FAMAs? He's slipping into Morrissey region right now. Is that a FAMAs?
As I live and breathe, that's a FAMAS.
Get away from the grenade. Did you fucking die?
Dude, I was capping, I was popping, I was locking, and then somebody threw a grenade. Who would have thought an effective way to
Easy
kill?
mode.
Who would have thought an effective way to kill someone would be to throw a grenade?
Oh no! Oh man,
That was a one-shot kill. What do you want from me?
that's really rough.
Oh, buddy, you're playing the rest of the games on this stream.
No, okay. So when we get to the Final Fantasies, I'll play those all day.
Oh,
I don't know if there's necessarily a hard mode that you can impose upon yourself when we play Final Fantasy.
dude, you're playing Tactics Ogre through. Oh,
No. I'll have a nervous breakdown on Twitch, and we'll probably get banned. that will be the
Shoot.
byproduct of us playing Tactics Ogre.
What are you waiting for? Shoot!
Don't talk to me like a rookie.
I'm telling you.
All right. We should probably get back into themes.
We should. I would like, if we're talking aesthetics, you know, when you first play this point, you're probably more Meryl than Snake.
Yeah. Well, and there are doublings and redoublings throughout this whole thing, and it's really interesting how that works. Who you empathize with.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, yeah, it's interesting
Because you're right. You haven't fired your SOCOM yet. This is the first time I'm firing it.
Run.
Why doesn't Meryl die?
She's a boss.
She is a boss.
She's important for later scenes. Ergo, she cannot die. Let's see what does Bill say?
Thanks for the help.
Wait.
So Bill said, "Oh yeah, dead ass, right?" Yeah. So Bill says that I never fired the SOCOM because I never picked it up.
How do you get past that part, Bill?
Yeah, how do you get past that part, Bill? I don't know. I think that. Well, no. We'll just leave that to him.
Yeah.
It's a thought.
It's a
experiment,
rhetorical question. But you're right. So we were talking about genetic perfection in terms of Solidus, liquid, solid.
Well, we actually did not bring up Solidus.
Well, we did say that they were both genetically inferior to him.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there is that.
Regardless of the fact that Solid Snake killed him with his bare hands.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We don't like to bring that up, though, right?
No.
Dude, Psycho Mantis. The first time I saw this as a little kid, I was genuinely terrified.
As you should be.
Yeah. Because you don't know if you're crazy.
Yeah.
You don't know what the hell is going on.
Have you seen the young Psycho Mantis yet in Phantom Pain?
Naomi, I just had some
No,
kind of
he's there.
hallucination. Is it from the nanomachine?
Actually, I think so. In one of
No,
those,
Snake. The nanomachines are functioning
one of those
normally.
trailers you showed
What
me.
was it?
Bill
It
is
must have
saying
been
things.
psychometric interference coming from Psycho Mantis, Foxhound Psychic. Think of it as a
Okay.
mental feedback
Ooh,
loop.
a mental
So
feedback.
that was Mantis.
Even Meryl comes from military genes, kind of, right? Being Campbell's niece.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the thing about that, though, is that genetics doesn't really determine whether or not you're going to be a good soldier.
No, but I do think there's the distinction.
Cultural tradition.
Well, yeah, between being an army brat
Yeah. Yeah, she's an army
and
brat.
not being one.
Yeah.
And isn't this game about that fuzzy line?
If this game is about anything, it is about blurred lines.
I mean,
Don't worry, guys. We're not going to play Robin Thicke.
Christ.
I know. We succumbed to it, and I don't know why.
That's going to be our new loading music. B2? We hitting that B2? We're going back to B1.
No, because it's time to. Well, do we have a key card?
She just gave us a key
Yeah.
card,
So
right?
yeah, go back up, and you can get the SOCOM suppressor.
Yeah, she just gave us a level 1.
I'm pretty sure that's what's in that room
Yeah.
that's kind of by the laser room.
Thematics and mirroring.
Well,
we knew it would be a challenge, but
yeah,
we're never one to turn down challenges. What do you want?
And even though it appears to be incoherent, it is incoherent.
Even though it appears to be.
So I guess let's talk about characters.
Yeah,
Because-
that's a good
because-
springboard.
Yeah, and I
Ooh,
mean
got
that
the box.
run around the box now. There you go. Well, you have to get out of the room now.
Well, I mean, I'd prefer the camera wasn't looking at me.
That's okay. You're out of the camera's range. You have to equip the... Yeah, there you go. So I think that the themes are kind of...
There were no doors on this side, right?
I think there's one all the way around that has the mine detector.
Ooh.
Oh, the guards? No, there are no guards on the second floor. From now on, theme is going to be inextricably bound to character. And so let's go character
level
by character. Who are we going to talk about first? Should we talk about?
Well, we were talking about Solid and Liquid, so
Yeah, but that's the one that's going to require the most attention. So I think that
Okay.
we should talk about some secondary or tertiary characters.
Mei Ling. I love
Mei
Mei
Ling.
Ling. I've been waiting to
Yeah,
talk
let's talk about
Mei
Mei
Ling.
Ling. What do you want to say about her?
And okay, so we talked about empathizing with certain characters at different points within the narrative, right? And Mei Ling is the quintessential fangirl.
Right.
I-
Mei Ling is our stand-in.
Yeah, absolutely. Mei Ling is us within the
Yeah.
game. I mean,
Totally.
she's completely infatuated with Snake. She
Right.
loves the guy because
She knows his track record.
you know, he's a hero. He's awesome, and you know, he gives his famous line, "I'm no hero. I'm just, you know, I'm an old killer." Right?
We were drunk, Bill. That's how you don't remember.
And you know, she works on different levels because a lot of us didn't play the original. She knows what happens in Zanzibar Land. She's establishing that he's a hero, and she believes in him when he doesn't believe in himself, because Kojima, the way he wants it, is that we actually shouldn't be that in love with Snake. I mean, he's an old killer. I mean, that's how Kojima views him as well. But as a fangirl, and us as fanboys, watching him, we just think he's fucking awesome. And she never loses that faith.
True dat. Because we don't either. How could we?
Yeah.
We don't really have a choice.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, Bill, I actually misread what you said. How do you remember the stuff? I don't know, because I thought you were drunk.
I mean, and Mei Ling, as you know, you call her to save. I mean, she's saving Zanzibar Land as something that happened, as an event. She's the one who brings that up. She's the one who tells the player that Snake is a hero. And throughout all the games, she is just a complete fangirl over him.
Yes.
And it's not because she's missing the point of who Snake is. It's not that she's missing the point that Snake is just an old killer. It's in her belief that he is more than that.
Well, and the interesting thing is that if there is somebody within the narrative that understands Snake more than anyone, it actually is Mei Ling. Because I think
What did I just pick up?
the SOCOM suppressor.
Okay.
So it's an automatic upgrade.
Cool.
Because I think that, you know,
You sure? I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is.
yeah, it's on there. Because the thing
Now
is
we're
that,
on the-
you know, we are in that spot too.
Me too.
You know, removing the new critical lens, we know everything that happens to Snake in terms of canon as it is now, and yet we still have this attraction to Snake in terms of, you know, he does something for us. We empathize with him. We go through his struggles. Don't get thrown into
That's why
blast
the
furnace.
thermal goggles are on, dog.
Yeah, I think Mei Ling is kind of that our proxy in some weird way.
Yeah. And you know, she's
you go.
she's an art lover. I mean, is she the one talking about movies all the time? Is that her?
I can't remember, actually.
Can somebody confirm she's the one talking about movies?
Hey, Bill, is Mei Ling the person who talks about movies? Don't answer just yet. Actually, answer whenever you want. I'll be right back.
Oh, jeez. I'm in it alone.
You're in it alone, dog.
I know. I've always been alone. So this part was always just the bane of my existence. We talk about coming back to places. Later in the series, we're going to come back to Shadow Moses. This is a room that you come back to all the goddamn time for very practical reasons. Problem being, I'm always freaking afraid I'm going to run into a laser. I'm going to fall in a trap. The first time you play this game and you don't know how to put on the thermal goggles, it's a very scary experience. And you're very wary when there's an open room. Just open for you to take things. Can't open lockers yet. That's a part 2 feature. A lot of SOCOM bullets though. 2 card key. Apparently no guards, which I don't remember. 3. And we've conquered everything. So let's blow up a wall. Now, for anybody who's played the original Metal Gear, you'll note that you don't actually blow things up. You don't blow walls up with C4. You punch them down. And the game does not signify to you in any way that that's what you need to do. You kind of just have to guess. You have to punch a wall down. Now, this isn't much better, but it is better. I mean, improvement. How such a goddamn awful game became one of the greatest franchises that I will never know. And he's back.
And I'm back.
And we're in a room, and we're about to find a little kitty cat running around.
Is that right?
It'd be a little ocelot. Just a little ocelot. But isn't there a secret room around here?
There is. It's right there. There's the boss room, and then there's another room.
So
Yeah,
we were
one's
talking,
right there.
We were talking about something,
Yes.
and it was. Oh, that's your job, buddy.
I wasn't thinking about it. Just
I got
now.
my hands full. We were talking about mailing last. I
Mailing,
think, as
yeah.
a stand-in.
So stand-in,
I
yes.
think that we've talked about.
Yeah,
it.
we've kind of beaten that dead horse at this point.
This is a good horse.
It's a good horse, but we can't keep on going. So let's actually talk about, since we've been bringing up a lot of binaries, let's talk about the binary of, or maybe just the duo that is, where are you going?
Looking for the other door, the ocelot door.
Oh no, here, go down. Go in there. And then take off your thermal goggles. It is right there.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah. So duos are important in this game.
Definitely.
And duos are not...
I think I know where you're going with this one.
Well, they're...
Duos.
You know, we've said binaries, but it's not necessarily binary in terms of, you know, this person is the opposite of this person, but rather they're mirrors of each other. Or they are, like, their motivations are echoes of each other. And certainly a duo that comes to mind.
Christ.
Why did you even do that?
You know, we're only human. Keep going.
You don't have the key card, it's 6. Yeah.
But what about those?
6 and 4. You don't have it yet.
Any of them?
No.
Even
But
Diamond Lane.
yeah, I think that one's 2. Like, I think it's 642. I think you can go after you beat this boss. But one of the duos in this game is definitely Naomi and Gray Fox. I mean,
Which is interesting because Gray Fox and Snake were once a duo.
right.
That's made apparent in the game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Christ, this fight.
I hate this fight, dude. Bill was actually the person who completed this fight when we speedran this. I did it I think I did it twice, and I got close both times, but it was still Bill who did it. But that said, I think we were playing normal or hard. Probably normal because we were a bunch of wimps.
But duos.
But yeah, so duos, Naomi and Gray Fox. So
He's alive.
the interesting thing about those two characters is that we have to look at their desire.
Don't worry.
Because their desires are so different,
No, don't touch it.
yet on some level their desire is interconnected. And that is more on the part of Naomi than it is on Gray Fox.
Yeah.
So Gray Fox wants... Gray Fox wants to punish Snake
Yeah.
for what he did to her brother.
You
But Naomi.
I'm sorry.
Punish him.
Naomi wants to punish Snake.
Yeah, which is an extended logic because that's not actually something Gray Fox wants.
Well, right. Yeah. Well, but the unfortunate thing is that Naomi doesn't realize that Cyborg Ninja is not her brother.
Yeah.
You know, his consciousness, his psyche has been augmented through battle, through trauma, through drugs. All of these things have altered him to the point where he is no longer Naomi's brother. But she doesn't fucking know that. How could she know that? You know, she can't. And so Naomi, not knowing this, punishes Snake. And she, you know, she's the person who infects him with fox dye. That is significant. I mean, like, she infects him with something that will kill him.
Will kill him.
You know, the last scene is like it is so not hopeful because she's like, yeah, by the way, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because of a revenge that has no grounds in reality. And not hers. Somebody else's, maybe. Right, and it really is, going back to this term, it is a dramatic sense of irony. You know, she thinks that Snake is the object of her revenge.
I almost blew up the fucking president.
You know, she thinks that he is the object of her revenge, but he's actually suffering under the same system that she is. Because her identity, to some extent, is...
Where is the ammo? I'm sorry.
Keep on going. It'll appear.
There we go.
This is easy mode, dog.
Yeah. That was actually really easy.
You're pretty good.
But go on.
Just what I'd expect from the man.
You know, Snake is not culpable for who Gray Fox is.
Yeah.
As Cyborg Ninja. He's actually... He is transformed in... There he is.
Yeah.
He's transformed into Cyborg Ninja by the same people who create Snake and Les Enfants Terribles.
Fact being, even, you know, Gray Fox would not be alive had it not been for Snake. You know? To an extent, while he's living in the present, I feel like there is a connection to Snake. He knows Snake saved him. I mean, that's the ending, right? I mean, with the battle with Rex and what he's doing. That he doesn't blame Snake, but he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing either.
Yeah.
So metal.
Cyborg Ninja, man.
Yeah.
He's cray, bro.
I mean, what else do we have to say about that partnership?
Well, it's kind of like, even though it doesn't serve as the basis for the other relationships that are present in the narrative of Metal Gear Solid, it is certainly indicative of the nature of knowing and the nature of coming to know within this narrative, you know. Like we said earlier, Snake is deceived by Campbell, is deceived by
He couldn't read you?
the president, the CIA is deceived by, like, there's an infinite regression of deception, you know, like, and that manifests itself in all of the relationships. So let's talk about Meryl and Campbell.
Are you sure you heard him right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a deception that goes on from both sides, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
Gray Fox can't defend himself. He doesn't have the cognizance to say, this is not what I want.
Fun with you, all right.
Meryl does and Campbell does, but their motivations are different because Campbell actually doesn't do it because he hates or is embarrassed of Meryl. But the other way around, Meryl does hate and is embarrassed of Campbell. You know?
Right.
Chief, is he okay?
I mean, they're they're interesting foils of each other. They're as much as they hate each other, they're the same person. They have the same desires. They have the same motivations. They have the same background. They have the same namesake.
They have the same dependence on Snake.
Yeah, everything is the same between them two, and that's like where that hate comes from.
Yeah.
A lot of there is something to say about self-loathing and transference and all that stuff. I mean, it's present, it's there, and it is what shapes that dynamic between them, but then also inadvertently
everyone else.
Well, I was going to say directly Snake. Well, that triad of Snake and then Campbell and Merrill, and all of their conflicting but also concentric and conflated interest.
And there's something to be said about Snake having to swat off characters who love him. I mean, because Merrill's completely infatuated with him. Mei Ling is completely infatuated. At a later point, Otacon is completely infatuated, and he has to tell all these people to back off.
But how did you know she escaped?
Right. Now is a good time as ever to talk about Otacon. What do we have to say about Otacon? That guy loves Snake.
He does.
He loves him. If there is one thing about Otacon that we know throughout breaking the new critical tradition, all of the Metal Gears, he loves Snake.
Sorry, I forgot.
And it's interesting to think about why, because what is Otacon's motive to do anything? It's actually described in this game. His motivation is that he wants to fix what happened in his own lineage, right?
There's a profound level of guilt that he has that he wants to fix.
The team leader of the Metal Gear Rex project. A genius at engineering.
And in some way,
as we're talking about Otacon, just as we were talking about Cyborg Ninja, it's coming up.
One of the interesting things about Otacon's relationship with Snake is that, in some sense of the word, his relationship with him is utilitarian. He wants to use Snake.
Okay, I was just gonna bring this up. He has a very deep relationship with Sniper Wolf based on Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Can we relate that to what he's going on with Snake?
Well,
I mean, is that the same thing?
Everything in this narrative comes down to...
Listen, have you ever seen a warehouse full of nuclear?
It comes down to a duality, and the duality is that on one hand, I want to become the other and I want to love the other, and the other part is I want to kill the other because they're the complete opposite. And so that there's a Stockholm syndrome that happens, but it's bound to a sense of hate, and a sense of.
Which is interesting because Wolf actually has to take the point of Snake and swat Otacon off and say, like, look, it's like, I want to take care of you because I'm loving to creatures of all sorts, it seems, but you need to back off. Like, you can feed my wolves and we could be friends, but, that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas Otacon really wants more than that. That really does factor into him being an otaku. And clinging on to women in that way, but Piggy Pig is telling us that there's too many hand movements going on. He's Persian. He can't help it. I can't. And Piggy Pig's still here. She just came back on. Welcome back, Piggy Pig. She was off for a while. Yeah, because there was an absence of the word fuck in the chat. Yeah. And so I knew that something was wrong and that she was not present. Yeah. Well, if we're talking about Otacon, there's an interesting avenue that we can talk about as him as an otaku, which he says, right? He says, I am otaku. And the creator of Evangelion, the anime, basically takes the stance that otaku are shitheads, and they're just terrible people. Yeah. And this is emphasized in the point where in the Evangelion movie, where that director, he had his say, right, and he didn't let anybody tell him what he wanted. Is when one of the female characters is incapacitated from a battle and she's in a coma, the main male character, the otaku stand-in, jerks off and comes all over the place looking at her incapacitated body, and he's making the argument that this is what otaku do, this is how otaku view women, this is how anime is an outlet to them. I don't know. Do we see that in Otacon? Is that otaku? I mean,
no, okay.
Kojima has a more positive view of otaku, but is that there?
Yeah.
I'll give you my card too.
I don't think that Otacon is this pernicious
No, you go on without me.
guy who has these ideas that, you know, Sniper Wolf should love me because I am a man and she is a woman and therefore I should be able to have sex with her. That's not it. That's not part of him at all. So I think that the otaku thing is kind of bringing in some excess baggage that has really kind of geared itself up within the past 4 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, like during this time, that like the otaku thing was, you know, it was a niche thing, and especially with white guys, it was, you know, it, like with Otacon, there were a lot of the number of otakus who were white, I would argue, is significantly lower. Oddly enough, that has something to do with Adult Swim, but I would say that that should probably just be a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
I think that if you track the behavior of Otacon and the otaku nature of Otacon,
clearly
in
Otacon's
games,
not
you know,
beating off over incapacitated women. I mean,
well,
he's not.
No,
at that level.
he's crying over them. I mean,
Yeah.
like the biggest emotional moment of Otacon does actually not deal with Snake. It deals with Sniper Wolf.
However, he does idolize them to a point that's not it's not really backed up in any way, because he doesn't have that big of a relationship with Sniper Wolf.
Well, he doesn't have
she
one with
doesn't
Snake either.
Yeah,
and so all I'm saying is that, you know, like Otacon he kind of feels the same role that Mei Ling does. He is
in later installments, I would say.
Even in this one too, though. You know, he is definitely the person who just takes Snake for who he is and doesn't ask questions. Just says, "This is the guy. This is the protagonist."
Is that Stockholm?
Well, no, it's not. It's not Stockholm syndrome, and that's why it's a interesting inversion where it's Stockholm with her, but it's not with him. But the relationship is the same, you know.
Snake, get hold of yourself.
Naomi.
But that's all throughout.
Yeah, well, there